Scott, we're moving from Pepe the Frog to Oscar the Grouch, all you pieces of garbage out there. Let's go. Let's leave the junkyard and head straight to the polling place because we're going to win this election. All my brothers in arms, all my pieces of garbage. I was worried that we weren't going to be motivated to get to Election Day. And God bless you, Joe Biden. You cannot tell me that Joe Biden didn't just purposely sabotage Kamala Harris's campaign. We're going to show you every facet of this incredible October surprise from Joseph Robinette Biden. And while we're at it, huge breaking news out of Virginia. The Supreme Court stands by election integrity. Shocking, but apparently non-citizens don't have the right to vote. It took a Supreme Court decision to tell Democrats that. And yes, Kamala Harris made her closing remarks last night, her final argument. It's weak sauce, but we're going to share it with you. All that and a whole lot more. Hunker down, garbage. I'm Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry. Thank you for tuning in on our live stream, whether you're watching on Rumble or YouTube or X or Facebook. We really appreciate it. Why don't you just give us a like? I guarantee you right now, you're going to like this. If by the end of this stream, you've decided, you know what, I didn't really like that, you can take the like back. You can go ahead and take it back. But give it to me right now. I want the thumbs up. Yesterday, it felt so good all over. Oh, there it is again. Oh, it's like a little massage. It's like a little, it's therapy. It's good. It's like getting a facial, as it were, so to speak. It's like a shiatsu. Thank you for the thumbs up. Thank you for the likes. And thank you for watching our stream today. Thank you for subscribing. And thanks for sharing the videos. Let's get right to it, shall we? It was an amazing sight to behold. There it was, all of the planning and production and stagecraft and expense of getting Kamala Harris to make her closing remarks right there in the backyard of the White House on the ellipse just past the fence of the South Lawn. What she's making her big statement, her big closing argument to 20,000 government employees and union workers that were bussed in to act like they like her. Right there in the National Mall. It was stirring, it was dramatic, it was momentous, and it all got upstaged by the creepy old man with mashed potatoes for brains in the house right behind her. That White House that was being used as a backdrop, well, somewhere in the basement there, Joe Biden was on a Zoom call with Voto Latino. I almost feel like they had him do this to keep him off the stage last night. Oh, we'd love you to be there with Kamala, Joe, but we need you on the Voto Latino Zoom call. And if you're Joe, it's like, wait a minute, I thought everyone was going to be watching the speech. Why would the Voto Latino people be sitting on a Zoom call with me? Oh, no. They really would rather hear you on the Zoom call, Joe. Go and sit there and drum up some support from Voto Latino. And you know that they set up like a pretend Zoom call with like maybe 5 people attending. He doesn't know the difference. But there actually were some reporters who were watching the president, because they're always in the room whenever the president does something publicly. And in the middle of this Zoom call, he said this.
Donald Trump has no character. He doesn't give a damn about the Latino community. He's failed businessman. He only cares about the billionaire friends he has and accumulating wealth for those at the top. He says immigrants are poisoning the blood of our country. Give me a break. He wants to do away with the birthright citizenship. Who the hell has said that in the last 100 years? And just the other day, a speaker at his rally called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. Well, let me tell you something. I don't know the Puerto Rican that I know, or Puerto Rico where I'm in my home state of Delaware. They're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of seen as unconscionable, and it's un-American. It's totally contrary to everything we've done.
Okay. Now, there's a lot to discuss here. Not just what he said, not just what he and all the Democrats in leadership think of you, because I love it when they say it out loud. You know, you give them enough time during a campaign on the public stage, and eventually they'll actually be honest with you. And you just heard it straight from the old dude's mouth. They think you're garbage. You know, it took the final weeks of the campaign in 2016 for Hillary Clinton to say out loud what she said in private all the time, that you are just a basket of deplorables. You know, the racist, the sexist, the homophobic, the xenophobic. Yeah, that's of course what they think about you. You know that. I've been telling you this for over a year now as we have these daily get togethers, that every time they call Donald Trump Hitler, they're really calling you a Nazi. It's not Trump they hate nearly as much as you they hate. You for being so stupid that you would support and vote for him. And so when Joe Biden reveals exactly how he thinks about you, you should listen to him. And you should know that Kamala Harris thinks the same thing as well. She tried to deny it earlier today. I'll show you that video. But we know what they really believe. We know it because we see it from their supporters every day, don't we? Either their pals in the propaganda media echoing those same remarks, or their supporters on your Facebook page. You know, your liberal brother-in-law and the crazy cat lady that shares a cubicle with you at work. You know how they feel about you. They tell you all the time. I think my favorite thing about this clip, though, is the media trying to tell you that you didn't hear exactly what you just heard. Listen to it again.
Well, let me tell you something. I don't know the Puerto Rican that I know, or Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware. They're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
Is it me, or did he almost say Puerto Rico, where I'm from? I wouldn't put it past him. He grew up in a black church, in a synagogue, in a Puerto Rican neighborhood, I think in a Muslim neighborhood as well. And I think in a gay neighborhood, if I remember one of the stories he told, or maybe with a gay dad. I lose track sometimes of the stories that Joe Biden says. So he's almost ready to say Puerto Rico, where I'm from. But then he pivots back to his sweet spot where he feels most comfortable, demonizing, dividing, and alienating half of this country. And make no mistake, when he says that it's Trump supporters who are garbage, he means a little over 50% based on the latest national polls. A little over 50% of Americans who support Donald Trump in this election. Now, while Donald Trump was saying that and Kamala Harris was getting upstaged while she was trying to give her speech just about a quarter mile away out on the back lawn of the White House, Donald Trump was in Allentown, Pennsylvania at a rally. And during the rally, he brought Senator Marco Rubio up on stage. And Senator Rubio said, Mr. President, I was going to make some remarks, but instead I'd rather just deliver some breaking news here. President Joe Biden just referred to all of Trump supporters as garbage. All of us, all of you, Joe Biden just called garbage. And, well, Donald Trump had a thing or two to say about that.
So remember Hillary, she said deplorable? And then she said irredeemable, right? But she said deplorable. That didn't work out. Garbage, I think, is worse, right?
I do like that. I do love Trump's garbage, I think, is worse, right? I think that's worse. Yeah, it's definitely worse. Early this morning, if you're on President Trump's campaign email list, you got a greeting from him today. You're not garbage. I love you. You're the best our nation has to offer. It takes a deaf politician to be able to take something like this slanderous, disgusting, slime-ridden insult of the American people by the President of the United States. Not an insult comic who told one joke on the stage at the beginning of a rally that was clearly a joke. That's a whole lot different than a president of the United States going on a rant about the supporters of his political opponent. It takes a lot of deft political maneuvering to be able to take that and immediately turn it around into a personalized greeting like this. Also deftly handling this was Josh Shapiro. He's the governor of Pennsylvania. He was on with Caitlin Collins on CNN as this story broke. As you can see at this moment, and this is really important because we're now entering the timeline of the propaganda spin of this story. Take a look at the time on this, 6:08, so that's 9:08 Eastern time. So the statement has been made. CNN has heard it for what it is, and they've even put it on their chyron there, Biden, only garbage I see are Trump supporters demonizing Latinos. Which is, by the way, already generous for the president because he didn't tag the demonizing Latinos as the descriptor of garbage. He was calling all Trump supporters garbage. Let's rewind this so everybody's on the same page. Listen to what he says.
Or Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware, they're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of Latino is unconscionable.
All right, let me just be clear. He said the only garbage I see are his supporters. Then there's a pause, and then he says, new thought, second thought, his demonization of Latinos is unconscionable. Not the supporters demonizing Latinos, Trump demonizing Latinos. Listen to it with me again. Two separate, distinct, separated thoughts. The only garbage out there are his supporters. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable.
They're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable.
There you go. We have to do this, the old Zapruder film breakdown, frame by frame of this abominable human being, because they're already trying to spin, propagandize, and lie to you about what he really said. So here's already rewriting what he said by CNN. Only garbage I see are Trump supporters demonizing Latinos. That's not what he said. It was only garbage I see are his supporters, period, full stop. So now here's Josh Shapiro, governor of Pennsylvania, challenged on this by Caitlin Collins.
Governor, first off, just what's your response to that comment from President Biden, where it sounds like he's calling Trump supporters their garbage?
Yeah, look, I had not heard that until now, Caitlin, so I'm kind of giving you my fresh reaction to it. I would never insult the good people of Pennsylvania or any Americans, even if they chose to support a candidate that I didn't support.
All right, so that's Josh Shapiro acting like a human being. He using his brain, recognizing this situation for what it is, and reacting in a natural, honest way. This, again, is before the talking points went out and before the spinmeisters and the propaganda outfits decided to rewrite this story. So let's freeze that in time and put it in the time capsule, because that's the last honest question and answer on any cable news network and from any politician that you will see about this abominable situation from the president of the United States. In fact, just an hour later, Politico came out with their write-up of the story. Take a look at this. This is beyond spin. This is beyond giving some level of grace and charity to Joe Biden and trying to, contextualize what they think he might have said. This is literally rewriting word for word what Joe Biden said. Politico reported that Joe Biden, in a Zoom call with the organization Voto Latino, said the only garbage was the hatred of Trump supporters who said such things about American citizens. Can you believe that? Are you kidding me? Do we need to see what he had to say again? I think we need to see it again. Here's what he said.
Or Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware, they're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
Only garbage I see out there are his supporters. Hey, Politico, write that story up. Joe Biden just said the only garbage he sees are Trump supporters. You betcha we'll write that up. The only garbage was the hatred of Trump supporters who said such things about American citizens. By the way, my favorite part of this Politico line, take a look at it. This needs to go in the Propaganda Hall of Fame. This is up there with Goebbels. This is up there with Stalin's rewriting history and erasing people from photographs. They should get a Pulitzer Prize for this one. This is what they give Pulitzer Prizes for now. Politico, honestly, this guy needs to be the new editor-in-chief. Promote this dude. Break down how this reporter wrote the sentence. Biden, in a Zoom call with the organization Voto Latino, said, quote, the only garbage, unquote, was the, quote, hatred, unquote, of Trump supporters who said such things about American citizens. So the only thing that's quoted here is the three-word phrase, the only garbage, and the one word, hatred. Now, I don't know, maybe it's me. I've got a keen eye for these things, but when I'm reading an article and a person is quoted, but the actual sentence that the person was supposed to have said is not encapsulated in those quotation marks. Only like 1/10 of the sentence is in quotation marks. I think to myself, wow, that's weird. I mean, isn't it easier for a reporter to just type out the quote, like the actual full quote? It's like, here's what Biden said. And then you write out the entire thing that he said and put quotation marks outside it. Why do you have to reconstruct this and just parse up what's a quote and what isn't a quote? The only thing that's an actual direct quote is the only garbage and then the single word hatred. And I hate to do this to you, but we have to. Go back one more time. Try to find where he says hatred, okay? Because the only garbage line is right here.
I don't know the Puerto Rican that I know, or Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware. They're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of seen as unconscionable, and it's un-American. It's totally contrary to everything we've done.
Did you hear the word hatred anywhere in there? Why is the word hatred in quote? I mean, maybe somewhere in this entire address to Photo Latino, he said the word hatred, but not in the context of the statement about garbage out there being Trump supporters. Man, oh man, that is some brilliant work by Politico. And then the spin continued. This time, your tax dollars paid for it. This is from the White House. The White House actually released a transcript, and here's the transcript. Here it is. I don't know the Puerto Rican that I know, or a Puerto Rico where I'm from. In my home state, he was about to say where I'm from. He thinks he's from Puerto Rico. In my home state of Delaware, they're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable, and it's un-American. It's totally contrary to everything we've done, everything we've seen. By the way, do you see the word hatred anywhere in here? Anywhere? Anywhere? I want to know where Politico even got the word hatred. But notice something. Notice something about the only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. See that magical apostrophe there? See that apostrophe? Suddenly supporters, which was plural, Trump's supporters, you know, the plural multitudes of supporters for Donald Trump. Now it's not plural. It's not his supporters, vast number of supporters. No, it's possessive because of the apostrophe. So the only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. So in other words, he has one supporter who owns garbage that is now floating. I'm sorry, I hate to be a grammar school teacher here, but you got to diagram the sentence properly. If that is a possessive, if that is apostrophe S, then that means he is talking about one supporter who apparently is in possession of garbage. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters' garbage, right? Except he stops in mid-thought, we're told. So now the rewriting. First, Politico completely mangled and rewrote the whole thing to be outside of any comprehensive description of what the man actually said. Remember, Josh Shapiro actually got it, and Caitlin Collins knew exactly what he said because they saw it themselves, and they reacted in real time to it. Politico then rewrote the sentence completely for their brain-dead readers. Anyone who's still reading Politico has got to just be willingly propagandized. They say, please lie to me, Politico. That's why you click on that article. Now the White House rewrites the transcript to make it a possessive, and now, well, the talking point is complete. Right? We go to CNN last night.
Say though, Bakari, he was in his house, the White House. He was in his house doing this, and the reporting is that there are places that he could be useful, but he's not everywhere like you might expect a sitting president to be for his vice president?
I don't know that I would expect this president to be everywhere in this moment. I mean, look, a critical element, any coach will tell you, any CEO will tell you, a critical element of running a team and winning is assessing the strengths and weaknesses of your team members and making sure you allocate them in the right way. Joe Biden has never been a big arena speaker. He's never been the most fluid speaker. And by the way, as someone who had a stutter growing up, it's very obvious to me that there's an apostrophe at the end of supporters there. He was referring to the garbage spewed by supporters, not simply the supporters themselves.
Wow. So as someone who grew up with a stutter, this guy's got a stutter too, he says. He clearly heard an apostrophe. How does one hear an apostrophe? I hear apostrophes. Man, saying my name must just drive him nuts, right? I've lived with an apostrophe in my last name forever. I don't hear it. But this guy hears it. I guess, you know how it is a blind person has accentuated taste and smell and hearing, right? Maybe if you have a stutter, you can hear apostrophes when people are saying it. And by the way, if in fact there is an apostrophe here, he's misunderstanding the grammar. I just explained. If it is how it is, supporter apostrophe S, that means one singular supporter with a possessive of garbage. But now he's saying it's plural. The supporters are still plural, but there's a possessive, which, by the way, would be supporters apostrophe if you're going old Oxford writing, or these days they do supporters apostrophe S. So they would say supporterses, which always sounds weird to me. But what was that again, Mr. Stutterboy?
As someone who had a stutter growing up, it's very obvious to me that there's an apostrophe at the end of supporters there.
Oh, it's at the end of supporters. So he's saying it's a plural with possessive. But of course, the White House says that it's singular apostrophe S, because they didn't even do that. So it's very clear to him. It's very clear to him, which, by the way, tracks with the tweet that Joe Biden's people put out, because Joe doesn't tweet, let's face it. Earlier today, I referred to the hateful rhetoric about Puerto Rico spewed by Trump supporter at his Madison Square Garden rally as garbage, which is the only word I can think of to describe it. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable. That's all I meant to say. The comments at the rally don't reflect who we are as a nation. So Joe Biden is sticking with the singular. He is saying that the comedian is the singular supporter, apostrophe S, and the garbage is his personal garbage, not the garbage that is obviously all of Trump's multiple supporters. So this guy trying to run interference by saying, I had an accent, or I had a stutter, and I hear the apostrophe, he's getting it wrong himself. So I don't know, maybe his stutter hearing and super spidey senses, because he has a stutter, aren't quite as attuned as they should be.
He's never been the most fluid speaker. And by the way, as someone who had a stutter growing up, it's very obvious to me that there's an apostrophe at the end of supporters there. He was referring to the garbage spewed by supporters, not simply the supporters themselves. But Joe Biden has been on the campaign trail. He's best getting ice cream in Maryland like he was today. He's best showing moments of empathy in Arizona like he was last week. He's best with union folks as he was in Pittsburgh last week as well. You use people where they are best. You put Obama in a big arena, you put Michelle in a big arena, and you put Joe Biden in front of a bunch of union people doing retail politics.
You could make the argument.
By the way, what's it like to be Joe Biden right now, where you've got this guy who nobody's ever heard of before giving political analysis on CNN saying, listen, Joe Biden is best when he's out getting ice cream. And you're Joe Biden. He's like, dude, I've been running for office since 1972. And the only time I've ever lost an election is when I'm caught plagiarizing. And this guy says Joe Biden's best when he's going to get ice cream. All right, I'm gonna let this play out, and then we'll get to the latest spin on this story. This is great. And let me just, all right, let me let this finish up, and then we'll get to some more analysis.
That they would be fine if Joe Biden wasn't anywhere near a microphone between now and next Tuesday.
Let me just accept the most charitable framing of this, which you just gave. Why is he sitting in front of a laptop at the exact same moment Kamala Harris is out on his backyard trying to give the closing argument to her campaign? What in the world is he doing? Now, I don't accept your framing of it personally, because I actually do believe he, Harris, the Democratic Party, and most of their campaign do believe that half the country is garbage. They've also said people who go to Trump rallies are Nazis. And so it's pretty apparent the disdain with which they hold half of the country in.
That's not
come
true.
on, that's not
Ari
true
already
at all.
litigated-
That's
Joe-
ridiculous.
already
But
litigated it
as
in Kamala's speech tonight.
but as a tactical matter today,
No, but you don't just get to
why
say
in
that.
the world is Joe Biden giving remarks at the same
I-
time
I-
as
I-
Kamala
I-
Harris?
I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
I love it's so funny how, again, it's just he's so good. This is why Ryan Gardusky got kicked off as well, not because he made the hilarious line about your beeper going off to Mehdi Hassan. It's because they're so good and they can't handle it. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 1 right here. Is that Mark Thiessen there actually? Right? I can't. Maybe it's 4 on 2.
The red
Scott,
tag guy is a conservative.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But they talk over. He makes a point. It's clear that they don't like Trump supporters. They've called them deplorables. They've called them Nazis. Now they go and they all talk over him. They all interrupt him. They try to shout him down. Abby Phillips like, you can't just say that. You can't just say that. It's like, where was her saying to you, Mr. Spidey Sense Stutter Special Listening, saying, what do you say? You can't just say that. You don't know there was an apostrophe. You can't just say that. So anybody can say anything. But when Scott Jennings actually listens to what they're saying about Trump supporters, either a basket of deplorables, garbage, or Nazis, and he repeats that, everyone objects and says, oh, you can't say that. You can't say that. Scott Jennings is like, watch me say that. Watch me.
I think it would be great if she could run on what Biden has done, because what Biden has done is actually tremendous. And I think it is absolutely bananas that she has to even think of distancing herself from the Jobs and Infrastructure Act, from the CHIPS Act, from the PACT Act. We haven't done infrastructure.
Look, I'm sorry. I just, as she's laying out all of the great achievements of the Biden administration, encouraging Kamala Harris to run on Biden's stellar record. Look at Scott Jennings' face. The man doesn't have to say a word. Can we make a meme out of this, please? The man is my spirit animal. Look at him just wet. Please. He's like, oh, I'm begging Kamala Harris to run on his record. Please do that. He can't wait to get in here. All right. I had to jump in because it's so beautiful.
Infrastructure. Why are you laughing?
Please keep talking about the CHIPS Act. If you look at the polling on the issues, Joe Biden is 60% disapproved on every single major issue.
That's right. That's why she can't run it. In fact, today, finally, she did make a statement about this. Now, this was at 10 this morning, so just 2 hours ago. Again, at Joint Base Andrews. She flew over from Marine One. You can see it in the background there. She's standing underneath a jet engine. She has such disdain for you. Anytime she has to say something that is uncomfortable or in some way going to be a problem for her supporters, like she's about to do, because she has to distance herself from Biden's garbage comments, she does it while she's standing under a roaring jet engine. I've been pointing this out to you for months now. Both of them do this. Both Biden and Kamala Harris do this. And so let's see what she had to say as she tries to distance herself from Joe.
Biden put this comment last night about garbage.
Listen, I think that, first of all, he clarified his comments, but let me be clear. I strongly disagree with any criticism of people based on who they vote for.
There you go. I strongly disagree with criticism. But see, here's what I'm not understanding and why I'm having a real problem with this, what we're calling Kamala Harris. The media is like, Kamala Harris disavows Joe Biden's statements. And she says, he clarified it, but listen, I disagree with any characterization where you call somebody names because they don't support you. Here's what I'm not understanding. Did she not see the apostrophe? Did she not hear the apostrophe? I mean, it's right there in the transcript. What exactly is she distancing herself from? What exactly is she disavowing? When she says, I disagree, what is she disagreeing with? He clearly was talking about the one supporter, the comedian who made the joke. It's an apostrophe S, Kamala. Didn't you hear the apostrophe? I guess she doesn't have a stutter. So will someone please clarify this for me? Because when I went to bed last night and when I woke up this morning, the truth, the narrative, the story, the facts as relayed to me by journalists was that that Joe Biden did not call Donald Trump's supporters garbage. And if you think so, you're engaged in misinformation. It was an apostrophe, damn you. So if that's the truth, if that's the fact, if that's the story, then explain Kamala Harris here. What is she disagreeing with?
Biden took this comment last night about garbage.
Listen, I think that, first of all, he clarified his comments, but let me be clear. I strongly disagree with any criticism of people based on who they vote for.
All right. So she was asked about Joe Biden's comments, and she says, I strongly disagree with anybody criticizing a person based on who they vote for, which is completely at odds with the new narrative coming out of the Biden White House, which is he didn't criticize anybody for who they support. Well, there was an apostrophe. So then a reporter followed up and said, okay, well, what do you say to Trump supporters who were offended by what they heard? And now understand, she just said that she disagreed with criticism of people based on who they vote for. So the natural follow-up is, well, then what do you say to the people who feel like they were just criticized by Joe Biden and that they were called garbage and they're offended? So let's see what she says. This is great. I'm so excited to see this.
Biden took this comment last night about garbage.
Listen, I think that, first of all, he clarified his comments, but...
Hold on. That's the same clip, guys. That's the same clip. I thought we had a second clip here, Mr. Kevin.
We should. Give me one moment.
All right. Stand by. We'll get that second clip for you. In the meantime, can I just a quick diversion? Because I think that this is important. Also, I was going to save this till the end, but we might as well take this opportunity. Are you guys seeing what I'm seeing here? What the hell is going on in his chin? So we've seen this before, right? Do you see the lumps? Do you see how it looks like? I'm showing. Do you see the marbles in his chin? It looks like there's 3 distinct lumps. Like there are marbles protruding from his skin. I'll let him keep talking here, but and you see it worse depending on the angle he's got. But there. Oh my gosh, it's really clear. Do you see the lumps? Are these like some sort of silicone injections that are popping out from under? I mean, we know he's had work done, right? Is it Botox? Botox doesn't do that to you, though, does it? How bizarre is that? I don't mean to be mean. Well, I kind of mean to be mean. But that is just gross. What has happened to his face? Is he melting? Is he morphing into something? I know we're supposed to be focusing on what he said, but good God, man, what the hell is that on your chin? All right, here we go. We've got our clip. Thank you, Kevin. This is Kamala Harris. Now, again, remember where we left off. She just said, I disagree with demonizing or criticizing anybody based on who they vote for. So the follow-up is, well, there are people who are offended by this. They think they were just called garbage because they vote for Donald Trump. What do you say to them?
Do you sympathize with any voters who do feel offended by or insulted by the garbage comments?
I am running for president of the United States. I will be traveling to 3 states today to do what I have been doing throughout, which is talking with the American people about the fact that, first of all, I get it in terms of the concerns they have about challenges like the price of groceries.
What in the God hell hanging? What was that? She's so bad. This is low-hanging fruit. What do you sympathize with voters who feel fat? I'm not running for president and I could handle this. Okay. If I'm a Democrat, if I'm Kamala Harris, how do I handle that? Here's the question.
Do you sympathize with any voters who do feel offended by or insulted by the garbage comments?
Well, I certainly do sympathize with that because let's face it, Donald Trump is not one to shy away from insulting people he disagrees with. He's called me many names on the campaign trail, and he's certainly called many of my friends and colleagues in Washington names. He's got a nickname for everybody. Listen, this is the rough and tumble world of politics. I think it's terrible that people are getting called names. And if you really want to talk about someone sympathizing with the people who feel offended by it, maybe you should ask my opponent about that first. See, I can do this better than she can. Now that's if you want to go on the offensive and start turning the tables and flip the narrative back on the reporters, right? Or if you really want to be a human being who wants to be a unifying president for all Americans, you could say, yes, I do sympathize with him. Enough is enough. I've worked with Joe Biden. I admire the man. I love the man. But, you know, there's some things that are crossing the line, and he crossed the line. And I just want the American people to know I don't think that way about them. I may disagree with their choice for president, but I would never call you such names. And I absolutely sympathize with you. And I'm just as angry as you are that Joe Biden did this. Why is that hard? Why is that hard? What's the downside of doing that? But instead, we get this. Do you, again, the question is, do you sympathize with the voters who feel offended?
I am running for president of the United States. I will be traveling to 3 states today.
Unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Although incredibly believable, sadly. All right. And now that brings us to, so that's what she said 2 hours ago. Now, an hour ago on The View, because, you know, these ladies had to have their say. They brought it up.
Trust me, there is a completely unfair standard with Donald Trump. I'm saying there's an unfair standard where his supporters have just decided it's baked in when he insults people, but they do take offense. Deplorables did matter. That comment from Hillary Clinton did matter. But I would say that Joe Biden is still the president. I'd like him to be working on getting the hostages back.
There you go. I hope you caught it. She says when Hillary Clinton called Trump supporters deplorables, that did make a difference. And Whoopi Goldberg says
deplorables did matter. That comment from Hillary Clinton did matter. But I would say that Joe Biden is still the president.
Turns out she was right. So again, I welcome moments like this. They're clarifying. They really are. They let us know exactly where everybody stands. I'm glad Whoopi Goldberg is telling it like it is. Stop pretending. Stop faking it. Hillary Clinton thought we were all deplorables. We could tell, by the way. We didn't have to hear her say it. She acted that way the entire campaign. And then the ladies on The View think the same thing about us. Joe Biden thinks the same thing about us. Kamala Harris thinks the same thing about us. Good. Put our cards on the table. No more BS. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris's running mate, Tim Walz, did the morning show circuit on Good Morning America today on ABC News. He was asked to react. By the way, can I just take a moment? Have you noticed that nobody's talking about Kamala's big speech? Have you noticed that? So they get Tim Walz on the Good Morning America today, and the topic is Joe Biden calling Trump supporters garbage. And you cannot tell me that Joe Biden didn't do this on purpose. The man knows politics. He's been around 50 freaking years. Okay? You cannot tell me that this was not deliberate. This is the greatest October surprise I've ever seen. Joe Biden is absolutely submarining Kamala Harris's chances, torpedoing it right out of the water. It is glorious to watch. So here's Tim Walz on Good Morning America 6 days before Election Day.
What's your response to that? Did it step on the vice president's message?
Well, the president's clarified his remarks, but let's be very clear. The vice president and I have made it absolutely clear that we want everyone as a part of this. Donald Trump's divisive rhetoric is what needs to end.
I see. So the real problem, would you please react to Joe Biden's calling Trump supporters garbage? Yes, Trump needs to stop saying mean things. So it's Trump's fault. Maybe he refined that message by the time he got on CBS News' Good Morning Show.
I want to put it into a larger context of your recent comment comparing the Sunday Trump rally to a Nazi rally. And I would also throw in there Obama's bitter clingers, guns and religion comment from a while back, the deplorable line from Hillary Clinton's campaign, and the way that Democrats are seen by some voters as disrespecting them. And I have to ask, does that undercut this closing message of unity from your campaign?
No, certainly not.
No, certainly not. Not at all. Are you kidding? Because we're all going to be unified against those deplorable, bitter gun clingers. That's what we mean. What do you think we mean when we say unify? We don't want to unify with all those baskets of deplorables, pieces of human garbage who cling to their guns and Bibles. I don't want anything to do with them. No, we are unified against them. There, that makes it all clear. You know, listen, politics is rough. It's a bare knuckle game. All right. You got to have a thick skin if you want to get in it. And let's face it, we're all in it. So we all have to have a thick skin. But I don't know about you, but I still yearn for the days where we had a leader who really did try to unify us, that did use soaring rhetoric, that did say the kind of things that we could all hope for and believe in. And when they got in front of us and they said that they wanted to be a leader for all of us and said that they wanted to bring us together as a nation and unify and recognized that the words they used as president of the United States really matter. When they said that to us, we could really believe it because they're so honest and they're so trustworthy. You know, like this guy.
The words of a president matter, no matter how good or bad that president is. At their best, the words of a president can inspire. At their worst, they can incite. The work of the moment and the work of the next 4 years must be the restoration of democracy, of decency, honor, respect, the rule of law, just plain, simple decency. The renewal of the politics. It's about solving problems, looking out for one another, not stoking the flames of hate and chaos.
Donald Trump has no character. He doesn't give a damn about the Latino community. Speaker at his rally called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. Well, let me tell you something. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
Yeah, kind of like that. Boy, talk about how it started and how it's going. It's the perfect end to his presidency, actually. I think it's sweet justice. It's actually poetic, the way Joe Biden is going out with a bang. And he's dragging Kamala Harris down with him.
Hey, Larry, we've got some super chats here.
Do we? That's fantastic. Let's go. Thanks for the super chats, guys. What do we got? Angela, what an angel Angela is. Garbage Nazis, 6 days. Christians got to vote. We will be the waste removal. That's right. We're going to take out the garbage is what we're going to do. Make it happen. Christians can't stay on the couch. That's right. Armor up. Armor up, my Christian brothers and sisters. We got this. Thank you, Angela. That's a great message. I appreciate it. I love it when you guys contribute to the show. Absolutely fantastic. CB with $5. Biden almost looked like he's reading his garbage talk. Makes you wonder what the ulterior motive really is and who's behind it. You know, there was definitely stuff that was scripted that he was reading. I don't know if the line about garbage was on the script. I don't know. But I got that too, especially when he's going through the list of things that he's done and that he said. That was absolutely written out for him. I don't know. Maybe he had, everyone says that Kamala has the earrings that give the radio transmission in. Maybe that's what those little bumps were in his chin, right? The little balls. They were like relaying the message. Listen, look at me. I'm Joe Biden. All right. Thank you, CB. I appreciate it. Angela. That's a duplicate. Thank you, Angela, for a twofer. I appreciate it. God bless you, Angela. She's my favorite angel. What else we got? Francie. Oh, Francie with a puppy. Sad for Oscar the Grouch. She loves garbage. No, we are Oscar the Grouch. Oscar the Grouch is our new mascot. These men should hang out with Elmo and Big Bird. They need a hug from Bert and Ernie. We just need love. Bert and Ernie, though, I've always questioned their deep and abiding friendship. It's like Tim Walz and some of his pals. But thank you, Francie. I'm sorry. I don't mean to get all kinky and weird on the Muppets. That's just weird. Thank you for the super chats, you guys. You rock. I really appreciate it. The super chats mean a lot to us. All right. We ready to go? All right. Well, last night, a lot of time and a lot of effort went into Kamala Harris's closing arguments. In fact, the campaign even put it out. They billed it as the closing argument. I guess they're still trying to steer into this whole, she's a prosecutor, she's a DA, she's an attorney general. Strangely, though, if you take a look at the stagecraft here, you see the setting. It's just weird. And again, I don't know what message she's trying. Well, I do know what message she's trying to convey. A campaign has three options, really, at a moment like this. They can go to the candidate's hometown. She could go to San Francisco with the Golden Gate behind her, and she could say, this is my town. This is where I came of age politically, and I'm going to do for the rest of the country what I was able to do here in San Francisco, California. Now, for obvious reasons, she can't do that. In fact, she's been trying to distance herself as not being a San Francisco liberal Democrat as much as possible, number one. Number two, the only way to deliver the speech for this many people in San Francisco, they would have to spend like a week hosing down the sidewalks and sanitizing them and like doing the power washing with the alcohol and sanitizing everything because there's, you know, piles of human debris everywhere and waste. So you can't do that. Option number two is you go to a battleground state. You go to the state that you got to win. You know, she should go to Pennsylvania, go to Michigan, go to one of those battleground states and say, this is it. It's the final stretch. We're launching it here. I'm never going to leave this state or these next three states because it's for all the marbles. And you like go all in on your campaign strategy there. The third option is to do what she did, which I got to tell you, you know, the one thing that almost every American can agree on right now is that the problems you're feeling in your life with your budget and with crime and with immigration and border security and national security and whatever else you're having to deal with right now, it all emanates from that town, from that city. In fact, many people would say from that house behind her. So this is the picture everybody gets. That Kamala Harris is making her final case by going to Washington, D.C., really where her power base really is, where she's most comfortable. She is a creature of this town, or at least has become a creature of this town. This is the town that is synonymous with everything that's wrong in our country right now. So it is bizarre that she chose that stagecraft. But the only reason she did was because that is the spot Donald Trump stood on January 6th. And the real purpose of this speech had nothing to do with her or her vision or what she would do as president of the United States. Because the only thing at this point, after this entire campaign, that she or Joe Biden or the Democrats bring to the table is Donald Trump is Hitler. And I won't be Donald Trump. That's it. And so she wanted to remind everybody of January 6th. And maybe it'll work. It might work. It might work. I think from my perspective, based on things that matter to voters, that image that you're looking at right now, that's the problem. That's the problem, that she is a creature of not just that town, but of that administration, because we all know who's in the house over her shoulder as she's speaking.
Subject. Politicians have got to stop treating immigration as an issue to scare up votes in an election. And instead treat it as the serious challenge that it is that we must finally come together to solve. I will work with Democrats and Republicans to sign into law the border security bill that Donald Trump killed. When I was Attorney General of a border state, I saw the chaos and violence caused by transnational criminal organizations that I took on. And when I am president, we will quickly remove those who arrive here unlawfully, prosecute the cartels, and give Border Patrol the support they so desperately need.
Did she just come out for mass deportation? Did she just announce in her closing arguments that she's going to execute mass deportation? Have you heard her say this at all on the campaign trail at any moment?
Quickly remove those who arrive here unlawfully.
One more time.
And when I am president, we will quickly remove those who arrive here unlawfully.
We will quickly remove those who arrived here unlawfully. Now, if for those of you who think that she is actually promoting and promising mass deportation, and for those of you who are thinking, well, what's next? She's going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. Okay, you know, what else from Trump are you going to co-opt? For those of you who are thinking that's what she said, let me just, I speak Democrat, okay? I'm not fluent in it, but I've heard it enough where I can read it and I can write it. And I can understand exactly what they're saying because I have heard them lie for decades of my life. And I've done this professionally now for almost 20 years. When she says very specifically and understand exactly what she said here, I want you to hear the words again.
Chaos and violence caused by transnational criminal organizations that I took on. And when I am president, we will quickly remove those who arrive here unlawfully?
The key word there is unlawfully. Because the vast majority of those who have entered this country without documentation and without an invitation and without permission, but have been allowed to stay, have been able to do so by using the fig leaf of an asylum request. They know the right language. The coyotes and human smugglers that they spend $10,000 a person on down south of the border have told them, if you encounter a Border Patrol agent, just say that you are seeking asylum and you'll be able to stay. And as far as Kamala Harris is concerned, those people have not entered the country unlawfully. So she's making you believe that she will enforce our laws. She's making you believe that she will deport people who shouldn't be here, but she is lying to you. She is lying to you. She believes that anyone who has come here and sought asylum is here lawfully, and they can stay, even if it takes 8 to 10 years for them to get their hearing. They can stay as long as they'd like. In fact, they should probably be allowed to vote. Probably. So she's lying to you. I mean, you already knew that she was lying to you, but I just wanted to spell out exactly how insidious the lie is. That said, the scene on the mall was, I mean, I guess impressive. I'll be honest with you. I was expecting more. This is the Ellipse, just south of the South Lawn of the White House. Right behind there, where all of the porta-johns are set up, behind those cranes, in front of the Washington Monument. That's Constitution Avenue. Theoretically, now they had actually blocked out portions beyond Constitution Avenue and into the mall, but it doesn't look like they had that spillover. It's a good crowd. Also, by the way, beyond all of those porta-johns that are set up, you would see buses, because a ton of people were bussed in here from various areas. But also, you don't need to. You know, Washington, D.C. votes for the Democrat every presidential election. Over 90% of the people who live here vote for them. And let's not forget, the number one group of Americans who will benefit, or who have benefited the most from the Biden-Harris policies, are government employees. People who live off of and rely on the government. People who work in D.C. and get a government paycheck. Not people in the military. No, they've been screwed by this administration. But all of those SEIU union members or AFSCME union members who work for government agencies, all the bureaucrats, they've exploded. Let's not forget that just the 85,000 IRS agents alone would be a huge crowd. And they have their jobs thanks to them. If you look at the job creation that the Biden-Harris administration has actually been responsible for, I'm not talking about people who returned to work after the pandemic restrictions were lifted. I mean actual new jobs. There have been actual new jobs. And something like 95% of the actual new jobs during the Biden-Harris administration are government jobs. So you give your speech in Washington, D.C., of course you're going to get a big crowd. That's where your base is. That's where your core constituency is. That's them right there. In fact, they're probably still on the payroll. They probably never punched out. Their bosses in D.C. probably said, oh, you're going to the rally? Absolutely. Stay on the clock. We'll pay you overtime. Go for it. I'm being serious about that. That should be investigated. We should get a inspector general looking into that. So, yeah, hey, a very impressive crowd. Really impressive. What's really impressive about it is that they didn't have to lie to anyone and say Beyonce was going to perform. Got to hand it to her. You know, she's really starting to grow into this job. The reactions of the speech were really something. I mean, most of us immediately started reacting to what Joe Biden said, of course, calling Trump supporters pieces of garbage. But some people were just locked in on the mellifluous tones of Kamala Harris, the incredible oratory, the soaring rhetoric that's really once in a generation do you get a politician like this who's able to capture the imagination of the zeitgeist of the times and of the American people. Jennifer Rubin, she's the conservative Republican columnist at the Washington Post. Of course, like all conservative Republicans at the Washington Post, she supported Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden, and now, of course, Kamala Harris. Her reactions in real time were, well, let me just say, somebody needs to get Jennifer a cigarette. Oh my God, what a speech. And then quoting her, I lived the promise of America, and I see the promise of America in all of you. I am not crying. There's just something in my eye. Her delivery has gotten so presidential, authoritative, and elegant. Ladies and gentlemen, we are watching in real time Jennifer Rubin experiencing a Kamala-gasm, which honestly, I thought she had, I've met Jennifer Rubin many times. I've seen her in person. I thought she had reached a point where this sort of thing doesn't really happen for her, you know? But apparently it does. I don't know who she was with last night, but whoever it was, they pale in comparison to whatever Kamala was delivering for her. Somebody put together a good side-by-side, 2 speeches, 2 candidates, same night. Kamala Harris making her closing arguments, Donald Trump making his. You decide.
Look, we know who Donald Trump is. He is the person who stood at this very spot nearly 4 years ago and sent an armed mob to the United States Capitol to overturn the will of the people in a free and fair election.
After all we have been through together, we stand on the verge of the 4 greatest years in the history of the USA. With your help from now until Election Day, we will restore America's promise. We will put America first, and we will take back the nation that we all love. We bleed the same blood. We share the same home, and we salute the same great American flag. We are one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. We will never give in. We will never give up. We will never, ever back down. And we will never, ever, ever, ever surrender. Together we will fight, 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 and we will win, win, win. We're going to win, win, win.
Listen, it's a time for choosing, as has been said in the past, and it certainly is a time for choosing right now between these 2 candidates. And I don't know about you. One message is about us and our future and of hope and the idea that, yes, things are broken right now, but together we'll fix it because we got a guy who's done just that in the past and he can do it again. That's certainly one message, one of unifying us as we bleed the same blood and we salute the same flag. And we're all the same people, and let's get together and actually make the country great. That's certainly a good closing message. The other closing message is 100% directed at the other guy about how bad he is and how evil he is and how terrible he is. And guess what, everyone? I'm not him, which I guess is a message. It's something, I suppose. Doesn't work on me, though. I'm thinking it doesn't work on most voters. By the way, one other thing, Kamala Harris had, an interesting day yesterday. She started it out by denying Joe Rogan a interview and choosing not to go and engage in a Joe Rogan interview because, her schedule is too busy. Then she spent the rest of the day preparing for the big speech and then granting a couple of interviews to local television stations that ended up blowing up in her face. And then she gave her speech. And that was it. Not a real full day when you're 6 days away from Election Day, but I guess the rationale was, this is it. This is the big closing argument. This is the big stage. We're doing the whole thing on the mall, and it's going to be huge, and it's going to be across all the networks. So we got to rest up and make sure that you've got all your energy for that speech. And she sure spent it all because afterwards she was seen getting onto Marine One, the helicopter that takes her to wherever she needs to go. And take a look at Kamala Harris inside the window here of Marine One. Watch. Wow. That is one heck of a yawn. That's like a horse's mouth yawn. And she's got an aide there checking something on the phone. But look at her. Look how tired she looks. I mean, I wouldn't even use the word tired. By the way, just so you know, this isn't multiple yawns. I am playing this on a loop. But look at how she's looking out the window, kind of dazed and despondent before that yawn comes. I said she looked tired. I don't know if that's really the word. I think the better word is exhausted. After the day that I just laid out, she looks exhausted. She looks like she can't take anymore. Wasn't she saying that Donald Trump was exhausted? Wasn't she saying recently that Donald Trump doesn't have any stamina, that Donald Trump doesn't have any energy? And have you ever seen Donald Trump looking like that? That's disconcerting, I think. But listen, she's engaged in a really tough campaign, and her schedule is, actually her schedule's pretty good. Hell, I wake up at 3:30 in the morning to do my job. I don't yawn like that. She's so out of her depth. It's absolutely out of her depth. Everything that she does is fake and phony, and people see right through it. And she still steps in a pile of manure every opportunity she gives herself. Her entire campaign seems to be crumbling right now, and they don't know what to do about it. The rats are starting to leave the sinking ship. Democrats, this is why you have a primary process. This is why you don't just hand something as valuable and powerful as the nomination for your party for president to somebody who's literally never won any election outside of California. She's never been challenged by a Republican candidate before. She's never actually had to answer any adversarial questions because she's been in the bubble of Democrat California politics. And even compared to Joe Biden, she's looked like an idiot. I mean, listen, it's your party. You can die if you want to, but it sure seems like you made a bad choice. Just talking to Democrats there. Like when I talk to the imaginary Democrats. All right, ready? Woo! All right, we have some really positive and breaking news, actually, out of the United States Supreme Court. It was announced by Attorney General of Virginia, Jason Miyares. Take a look at this. The Supreme Court has agreed with the state of Virginia in, let's get that up. There it is. The Supreme Court granted Virginia's emergency stay to keep non-citizens off the voter rolls. That's right. I'm sure you've been tracking this. We've mentioned it a couple of times on the show. But what happened was the state of Virginia, they were following a state law that's been in place since 2006. It was signed into law by Tim Kaine, now the Democrat senator from Virginia, at the time the Democrat governor. That's right. This was signed in by Democrats that would mandated that the state of Virginia on a routine, regular basis go through the voter rolls and remove anybody who is a non-citizen, anybody who shouldn't be on the voter rolls. Now, these are people who have actually self-identified as a non-citizen of the United States of America. So they've actually said, it's not like we've been knocking on people's doors saying, show me your papers or I'm going to take you off the voter rolls. No, these are people who have actually proactively told the state of Virginia that they are not citizens. And so the state of Virginia said, oh, okay, let's take you off the voter roll then, so there's no mistakes made, so that there's no vote cast in your name, or God forbid, you break the law another time and you vote. So Governor Glenn Youngkin and Attorney General Jason Miyares, they went through the legal and mandated process, Virginia state law, of purging the voter rolls of these people. And Joe Biden's Justice Department sued the state of Virginia for doing that. And by the way, this was a law that was already screened and approved by the Justice Department. A lot of times, especially states in the South, coming off of the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act of the 60s, they have provisions in their state constitutions or in their state statutes that whenever they cast any new laws that involve the voter rolls and requirements for voting, they have to get that stamp of approval from the Justice Department. It goes back all the way to the segregationist days when Democrats ran the states in the South. And you know how racist Democrats are. They had racist laws that kept black people from voting. So because of all those racist Democrats in the racist Democrat Party that passed those racist laws. Well, now southern states have to get these things cleared. Of course, now Republicans pretty much run those states, and they're not passing anything racist because they're Republicans. They don't have a track record like that. Republicans, we're the party of Lincoln. We fought to free the slaves. All right, I digress. This law was already cleared and approved by the federal government and the Justice Department in 2006 when it was passed. But Joe Biden and Merrick Garland sued because, and I can only assume that this is their reason, they want to make sure that non-citizens can vote. I mean, they offered a different argument. Their argument was laughable, though. Their argument was that since the time these people registered to vote as non-citizens, and today they may have become naturalized citizens, and so you'll be removing them from the voter rolls, and now they won't be able to vote. And so because that may have happened, we can't take anyone off the voter rolls. Of course, in the state of Virginia, if you show up to vote and you are a citizen and your name is not on the voter roll, that's fine. You can cast a provisional ballot. So no one was going to get turned away from voting, but it doesn't matter because Joe Biden and Merrick Garland want to make sure that non-citizens can vote. So the state of Virginia challenged this, and an appeals court upheld the Justice Department's decision. They took it all the way to the Supreme Court. And this morning, here was the decision. It was Beal Susan et al. Versus the Virginia Coalition for Immigrant Rights et al. The application for stay presented to the Chief Justice and by him referred to the court is granted. The October 25th order of the United States District Court of the Eastern District of Virginia is stayed pending the disposition of the appeal in the United States Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit and disposition of a petition for writ of credit. Bottom line is the good guys won, and Virginia can go ahead and purge the names of non-citizens off the voter rolls leading into the election. By the way, it should be noted that Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson were against this decision. Democrat nominees. The 6 Republican nominees actually had some common sense, and they care about fairness and actually making sure that people are not disenfranchised. Oh, that's right. That's what I said. They want to make sure that actual legal citizens and legal voters are not disenfranchised. Because if I'm a citizen and I vote in Virginia and I vote for Donald Trump, and then a non-citizen, someone who should not legally be allowed to vote, shows up and they vote for Kamala Harris, well, that Kamala Harris vote has now negated my Donald Trump vote. That person shouldn't have been allowed to vote. I am a legal citizen and my vote is legal. I've been disenfranchised. My vote no longer counts because of that illegal vote. This is about the disenfranchisement of U.S. citizens who are trying to vote fairly and legally in this country. And it appears Democrats who want to make sure people who cannot legally vote have the opportunity to do so. Donald Trump talked about this outrageous move by the Biden administration earlier in the campaign trail. I want you to see what he had to say about it.
And it just came down in Virginia, illegally allowing non-citizens to vote in our elections. In fact, a poll came out, 87% of the people disagree, so that's pretty good amount, isn't it, Ted, huh? The outrageous decision goes against the very bedrock of our democracy, and thankfully, Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin, who's doing a terrific job, is working hard to fix this problem. They found thousands of illegal votes, and the judge said, you didn't do it in a timely fashion. They did it a long time ago. As legal scholar Andy McCarthy just said, and very correctly, how can non-citizens be allowed on the voter rolls if their voting is a federal crime? Constitutional law professor Jonathan Turley, 2 great guys, by the way, also notes that it is a crime to be a non-citizen voter. Removing illegal voters off the voting roll should be a big priority for this country, and yet instead we're scorned by a judge. This is blatantly un-American, and it's election interference, and Kamala Harris is behind it very much. And so I just wanted to bring that to your attention. And obviously, I mean, it's up to the governor of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin, but I assume they're going to be appealing it. I think he's going to. And they feel very strongly about it. So we'll see how it goes. But You have to get the confidence going for elections when you have decisions coming down like that, where they allow people to vote that blatantly aren't qualified to vote. It's pretty sad for our country. We have enough problems with the elections.
Yeah, and that last part that he made here, it's such an important point that I hope you all sort of take this in and you're able to convey this when you have your Thanksgiving dinner and people are, screaming about how the election went and they're all feeling like they were robbed. No matter who, here's the thing, no matter who loses this election, they're going to feel like it was stolen. That's the sad reality that we live in right now. And it is so insidious and so destructive to the democratic process that we use to choose our representatives in this constitutional republic. It undermines everything in our system. And Democrats and the decisions that they have made and the way they react to objections to the decisions that they've made and their objections to any efforts to instill voter integrity in our process by calling it racist and disenfranchisement and Jim Crow on steroids. They have created this environment. And by the way, also the insistence on all these mail-in ballots and the drop boxes that are unsecure and the ability to count ballots without a postmark. That's the latest out of Nevada, that the Supreme Court of Nevada just ruled that a ballot showing up 3 days after Election Day without a postmark must be counted as a ballot. For God's sake, do the math here on how the system can be gamed and how cheating can occur with those kind of rules. And by constantly moving these decisions forward that undermine basic logical election security protocols, they have created an environment where at the end of the election, whoever loses feels like it wasn't fair, that it was a fraud, and they got robbed. And that nothing undermines our democratic process in this country, of this constitutional republic, more than that. It's like they want us at each other's throats. It's like they want whoever becomes a president to have half of the people think that they're illegitimate. It is despicable. It's disgusting. And we've got to get past this. I honestly care who wins an election, but I care more that everybody walks away saying, okay, listen, we lost, but at least I know they didn't cheat. At least I know it was fair. And these thousands of non-citizens who are on the voter rolls in Virginia, let me tell you something. Why do you think Biden and Harris and Merrick Garland care so much about Virginia? Virginia has voted for the Democrat since 2008. It's been a blue state since 2008. Why are they suddenly so worried about Virginia? Why are they making sure that these non-citizens are on the voter rolls in Virginia? Last poll I saw, Kamala Harris is only winning by 2 points in Virginia. I'm not saying that Trump's going to win Virginia, but Virginia's going to be way closer than anybody's thinking out there. And who knows, 6,000 non-citizens taken off the voter rolls could very well make the difference. You just heard Glenn Youngkin, the governor of Virginia, mentioned. He talked about this the other day as well when this court decision came down. I want you to hear what he had to say.
Yeah, Harris, this is a stunning ruling by a federal judge who is ordering Virginia to reinstate individuals who have self-identified as non-citizens back on the voter rolls. And what's even more astounding is the vast majority of these folks had presented immigration documents confirming that they were non-citizens, and we recently had that verified by federal authorities. So here we are with a judge saying, put people back on the voter rolls who you know are non-citizens. And this is under a law in Virginia that's been in effect since 2006. It has been applied by Republican and Democrat governors alike into this 90-day period. And here we are 11 days before a presidential election, and a federal judge is ordering them back on the voter rolls. It's astounding to me that this could possibly happen. I mean, listen, common sense says non-citizens aren't on the voter rolls, but the Constitution and the law say it as well. And that's why we are immediately petitioning the Fourth Circuit for an emergency stay here on this injunction. And we will immediately go to the U.S. Supreme Court if necessary.
And that's exactly what they did. And once again, to repeat the big breaking news, the Supreme Court just, 2.5 hours ago came down with a decision. Non-citizens will not be on the voter rolls on Election Day in Virginia. And my favorite part of what Glenn Youngkin said right there is this: common sense says that this is what should be done. And by the way, the Constitution and U.S. and Virginia state laws say that this is how it should be. But this is part of the problem here with all these decisions and all of these rules and all these voting laws, is that they all defy common sense. And when you point out that it doesn't make any sense, that it defies common sense, they call you racist, or they call you a conspiracy theorist. And they tell you that, so you think that this is all about, stealing an election and stuff in the bad. There's no evidence that it's like, well, of course you don't have any evidence of it. People commit crimes all the time without any evidence. There's a moment in the Joe Rogan interview with Donald Trump where they talked about voter integrity, and then they've honed in on voter ID. But again, it just goes back to common sense. You saw that I think it was it Donald Trump who said 85% of Americans polled agree. And in fact, I'm concerned about the 15% who think that it's just fine for non-citizens to vote in presidential elections. Like, what's the point of being a citizen? But all of these things that Republicans are trying to institute for voter integrity are common sense. And the majority of Americans are in favor of it. And they brought this up with Joe Rogan and Donald Trump having to do with voter ID. All right. And this spurred, it's a great conversation. And this is, if you haven't watched the Joe Rogan interview, you really should, or listen to it. But they're touching on something here because it defies logic. It doesn't make any sense. And this has been a challenge for Republicans in this election cycle. And we're going to close up with this point. And it has to do with the fact that some of the things where the Democrat Party is right now, where Kamala Harris is right now, and Joe Biden, and just the hierarchy of the Democrat agenda, the Democratic Party, and the propagandist in the news media, as well as the pop culture media and the late night shows, Saturday Night Live, whatever, what they're pushing right now is so outrageous and so literally unbelievable that when Republicans say, they'll do this and they'll do this and they'll do this, like, they're going to put pornographic books. They want to put gay porn, explicit gay porn, like graphic novels with pictures of fellatio and such between children. They want those books to be in kids' public libraries. In like a 7th grade class, they want those books. And most people hear that and it's like, well, that's outrageous. Of course they don't. That's a lie. That can't be true. That can't be fake news. Take a look at this article. This was from, I think this was from, I'm not sure what publication it was. I'm sorry. Here, the same GOP staffer who's currently working on a competitive congressional race told me that one problem his campaign regularly faces is that aspects of Democratic governance are simply too insane for voters to find credible, even when they are documented as official U.S. government policy. Quote, when you outline the Democratic agenda, you have to water it down a little because in polling and focus groups, people just don't believe it. They're critical of things like boys and girls sports, but they tune out stuff about schools not informing parents about transitioning their children. They just don't believe it's true. It can't be. When you say, the Democrats want to make it so that a teacher has to keep a secret of a sexual nature from a parent about that child changing their gender. They don't believe it. The Democrats want to, it is law in California right now. If a parent calls a teacher and says, I've noticed my child is acting strangely, I am worried about them. Is there something I should know? Have you noticed anything at school? That teacher knows that child, when she comes to school, is transitioning to a boy and using a boy's name and dressing in boys' clothing. And that teacher is prohibited from telling a loving, caring parent who wants to know what's going on with their child. That teacher is prohibited from telling the truth. In fact, state law in California mandates that teacher lie to the parent. Think about that. And it is unbelievable when you say to a voter, Democrats want to keep non-citizens on the voter rolls. They want non-citizens to be able to vote. They don't want them purged off. They just took it to the Supreme Court to keep non-citizens on the voter rolls. Your average voter is going to say, well, that can't be true. That's a lie. There goes Trump lying again. That can't be true. When you go to a voter and you say Kamala Harris took taxpayer dollars and paid for transgender surgeries for convicted felons and has said she wants to do the same for illegal immigrants in the country illegally so that they can have a sexual transition medical procedure. Most voters are going to say that's impossible. There's no way. I know she's crazy. I know she's a left-wing liberal, but you're lying to me. And it's all true. It's all true. And so what do? You're a Republican and you're trying to make the case about how off the deep end they are. And you lay it all out there. You could even show them documentation. Say, I don't believe it. Because it is unbelievable. And this is the biggest challenge for Republicans in this election cycle. And this is a perfect example of it. No voter ID. And in fact, if you are a non-citizen and you would register to vote, which by the way is illegal, it's illegal even to register to vote if you're a non-citizen. Not only do they not want you to prosecute that person and fine them and deport them for breaking the law multiple times, but they also want to keep their name on the voter roll, just in case. Just in case. We might need to find a few votes at the last minute, allegedly. Oh, that's it for us today, all you pieces of garbage out there. It's always fun spending time with you. Thank you for watching our stream. Thank you for being part of our daily show. We really appreciate it. Kevin, do you have anything to add here?
Yes, we do.
Oh, what do you got? Angela, again, yes, we have great victory in Virginia. We are thrilled with this victory here in the D.C. area. All states should have only American citizens voting. Pennsylvania sued for turning voters away. Maricopa County tricks. Vote these fools out. Yeah, we didn't even get to the Pennsylvania stuff, but it's insane what we saw there. Maybe we'll have that at our next show. Thank you, Angela. You're so sweet and generous today. We really appreciate it. Susan Cummings, we love you. Great job. Love your show. Vote Christians. US. Thank you, Susan. Fight, vote, vote. Garbage, garbage, garbage. You're all garbage. We should all bring hefty bags to Election Day, right? Thank you, Susan. Bob Lee, thank you for the $2, man. I appreciate it. And I like your dog. Is that a Pomeranian? I think that's a Pomeranian. I always like to try to identify the dog. And Apia Man, I hope I pronounced that right. $10. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. That's good for 2 Big Macs for Kevin, and he needs it. He's a growing boy. You guys are garbage. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Honestly, the best, the greatest garbage, the best, absolute best garbage. I would rather spend time with you garbage than with any other garbage in this country. Thank you so much for watching us today. Keep your eye on the prize. I'm still in Hillsdale, Michigan, by the way, but tomorrow's a travel day. Heading back to the mothership to get ready. We'll be back in our regular studio starting Friday, but tomorrow is a travel day, so I'm giving you a heads up right now. No show tomorrow because we're traveling back from Hillsdale, Michigan, back to the D.C. area, and then we're all in on Election Day. So we'll see you then. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry.